E.N.D here. With the release of Edge of Eternity scheduled for the beginning of August, Standard Rotation 2025 will kick in, and 5 sets, Dominaria United, The Brothers War, Phyrexia All Will Be One, March of the Machine, and March of the Machine The Aftermath will rotate out. No doubt, these 5 sets, especially the first 3, Dominaria United, The Brothers War and Phyrexia All Will Be One, have been a crucial foundation for every standard deck over the past couple of years. They have introduced some of the strongest and most format-defining cards we've seen in a while. But as we move towards rotation, it's time to reflect on the cards we'll definitely not miss. Let's be honest, these are the cards that everyone hated to see on the other side of the battlefield, yet most of us played them anyway because they were just that powerful. Here are 10 cards that, in my humble opinion, we are glad to say goodbye to, the ones that dominated Standard and hopefully didn't tilt the tables. Let's start. And I want to start with 2 honorable mentions, Nissa Resurgent Animist and Glissa Sunslayer. There was a brief period where a deck built around Nissa made waves in the format. Thanks to this, the sparked version of Nissa, players could generate nearly unlimited mana, enabling them to cast their entire deck in a single turn. It didn't last long, but during its peak, the deck showcased how powerful Nissa could be when the right pieces come together. On the other hand, when you have a 3 mana 3/3 with First Strike and Death Touch, what more could you possibly ask for? Glissa Sunslayer was a menace. If your opponent didn't have a removal spell on hand, their gameplay could unravel quickly. Glissa was exceptional both offensively and defensively, trading up with ease and offering powerful triggered abilities. Whether it was drawing cards, removing enchantments or stripping counters, Glissa gave you value every single turn. In 10th position, Haughty Digion, a mono blue creature that reduces the cost of instants and sorceries by 1 generic mana. For mono blue players, that's really a big advantage. Let's be honest, blue players are infamous for casting instants and sorceries, and nothing frustrates opponents more than having their win condition counter. Giving these players a discount on their spell slinging tools only makes it easier for them to lock down the game, protect their board, and ruin your carefully crafted strategy. In 9th position, Jace the Perfected Mind and Vraska Betrayer's Sting. Where there is Jace, you will find Vraska, but oddly enough, I don't recall anyone ever actually playing these 2 lovebirds together in the same deck. Individually though, they were powerhouses. Jace the Perfected Mind became the go-to win condition for anyone playing Mill. Even today, Mill strategies remain viable in Standard, and Jace was the perfect Planeswalker to support that archetype, disrupting the opponent's deck while drawing cards when needed. Vraska Betrayer's Sting, on the other hand, didn't see much play at first. She was intended as the finisher for toxic decks, but those didn't really take off, at least not until Bloomburrow introduced Innkeeper's Talent. That card changed everything. Thanks to it, Vraska finally reached her full potential. By turn 5, you could give your opponent 18 poison counters in one explosive play. That's instant game over. In 8th position, Ura Brasque Forge. Who would have thought that a 3-drop artifact could be so powerful? At first, nobody played this card, probably because its strength wasn't immediately obvious, but once players started adding it to their mono-red decks and even more effectively into their Boros builds, it quickly proved just how deadly it could be. Turn after turn, it would flood the board with increasingly stronger Phyrexian horror tokens, applying relentless pressure. And let's not forget, artifact removal was incredibly scarce in Standard at that time, making it even harder to answer the ticking time bomb. In 7th position, Monastery Swift Spear. If mono-red decks and more recently Izzet Prowess have been dominating Standard, we have one key card to thank: Monastery Swift Spear. With haste, prowess, and a very low casting cost, it became one of the most efficient and aggressive creatures these decks could deploy. On its own, it applied early pressure, but paired with spells like Monstrous Rage, Turn Inside Out, and recently Cory Steelcutter, it could become unstoppable. In 6th position, Knight Erand of Eos, when a deck is called Boros Convoke and only runs one creature with the Convoke mechanic, Knight Errand of Eos, that alone says everything about how powerful this card truly is. Thanks to early game enablers like Novice Inspector and especially Gleeful Demolition, it's entirely possible to cast Knight Errand of Eos as early as turn 2, and when it enters the battlefield it doesn't just bring power, it tutors 2 other creatures straight into your hand. In 5th position, the black removal spells. The color black has always been synonymous with removal spells, direct, efficient answers that leave your opponent with no chance to save their creatures unless they can counter the spell itself. Across these 5 sets, black was given an arsenal of powerful removal options that shaped the format. First, cut down a 1 mana instant that could eliminate most early threats with ease. Second, go for the throat, brutal and effective, it could destroy any non-artifact creature no matter how large. Third, Annoyed with Affliction, not only a removal spell but also an exile effect, leaving no room for graveyard recursion. Fourth and last, Liliana of the Veil, at one point considered the most powerful planeswalker in the game. While no longer that strong, her brief return to standard reminded everyone of her disruptive power. In 4th position, Layline Binding, one of the main reasons domain decks rose to popularity. This single card gave domain strategies a powerful, flexible answer to nearly any threat. If a player controls 5 different basic land types achieving domain, Layline Binding can exile any non-land permanent for just 1 white mana. That includes creatures, planeswalkers, artifacts, enchantments, virtually anything problematic. With Flesh, Layline Binding can be cast at instant speed, making it even more powerful by allowing players to react during their opponent's turn or disrupt combos at the perfect moment. When supported by the right mana base, it's extremely cheap to cast and incredibly versatile. In 3rd position, the board wipes, 3 particular cards which define the control strategy in recent standard. First, Temporary Lockdown. Temporary Lockdown was the perfect answer to aggressive, fast-paced decks like Mono Red, Izzet Prowess and Boros Convoke. For just 3 mana, it exiled all non-land permanents with mana value 2 or less, removing creatures, artifacts, enchantments and even tokens. It completely reset the early board and bought time for slower strategies to stabilize. Second, Sunfall. Sunfall addressed the other side of the spectrum. Against decks that went big, Sunfall didn't just wipe the board, it exiled all creatures, denying the triggers and graveyard recursion, and left behind an incubator token that could later transform into a threat. Third and last, Portal to Phyrexia. While Portal to Phyrexia is not your traditional board wipe, often acted like a one. When it entered the battlefield, opponents had to sacrifice 3 creatures, but its real power came with time. On each upkeep, it returned a creature from any graveyard to your battlefield, slowly swinging the game heavily in your favor. In 2nd position, Attra Unifier. One of the driving forces behind the surge in domain decks popularity was undoubtedly Attra Unifier, a true powerhouse in standard. Atraxa offers immense card advantage and board presence in a single package. Her Enter the Battlefield ability lets you look at the top 10 cards of your library and reveal up to 1 card of each type, creating a massive tempo swing and often reloading your hand with multiple threats and answers. But her strength doesn't stop there. Atraxa 7/7 body comes loaded with flying, vigilance, death touch and lifelink, making her a nightmare to block and a perfect tool for stabilizing any board state. Thanks to her 4-color identity, Atraxa fits seamlessly into domain decks, enabling access to a vast pool of powerful spells across the color spectrum. Combine that with the fact that reanimation spells like Zombify can cheat her into play, and you bypass her steep mana cost while still enjoying her devastating ETB trigger. In 1st position, let's do a drum roll. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. What else can I say about this card? Her static ability, Sheoldred's ability to punish opponents for drawing extra cards and reward the controller for the same action is a powerful effect. Many decks in Standard rely on drawing extra cards to gain advantage, and Sheoldred can quickly shut down those strategies. Sheoldred's ability to disrupt card draw and drain life makes her a strong inclusion in decks, especially those looking to control the game or race to the finish line. This ability can single-handedly swing the game in the controller's favor, especially in longer games. Sheoldred has a solid stat line for her mana cost, 4 mana for 4 with Death Touch. While she doesn't have evasion or a powerful enters the battlefield effect, her ability to punish card draw makes her a resilient threat that can stick around and close out games. Honestly, I don't know how on earth she wasn't banned. So those were my top 10 cards I won't miss with this standard rotation. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below and let me know which card or cards are you glad to see rotate out of standard. Whether it's a card that ruined your game playing one too many times, or just you're tired of seeing across the table, I'd love to hear your picks. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more and more interesting videos about Magic the Gathering and the collectible world.